So we're talking about RPGs for beginners, but what does that really mean? Well, in this video, we're going to cover certain criteria that makes a game perfect for beginners, such as combat, how well they explain the tutorial, but also the difficulty level for each and every one of these games. So if you're ready like I am, let's start with the list. We have to start it off with Trials of Mana. This is the remastered version that I got to experience from my Xbox Series X, and ooh, almighty, this game is super fun to play. Combat, it is almost like an action RPG, so it's all about mashing buttons, grinding, and leveling up as quickly as possible. I also love the accessibility that you have of going to your settings and tweaking it to have an overall great experience while playing this game. Something that makes this game shine, and I think is the premise overall of Trials of Mana, is being able to select your character and experiencing their story. So every time you get to play Trials of Mana, you can select a new character and play a total new game. Not only do you get to select the main character, but you also get to select the characters that you'll encounter later on in the game that will form part of your team as you progress through the story. I got to play a little bit, and I gotta say, it got me super excited, and it's one of those games that I definitely want to sit down and just focus on it until I am completely done with it. Now, following up is Infinite Guitars, a new game that I got to experience thanks to the Xbox Game Pass. And this game is super unique, guys, because if you're a musician or you overall love music, whew, I got you covered. And it is the first time that it incorporates 3 genres in one. It is a rhythm game, a turn-based, while also incorporating action RPG elements all in one. And it might sound like a mouthful, because it probably is. It has a lot to offer as it fuses and meshes 3 genres in one. As any rhythm game, you get to play to the rhythm and just bang to the beat as you play through each stage. Now, what's interesting is, as an action RPG, you have enemies to encounter and run away, dodge, while doing it to the beat. The cool thing about it also that is when it turns into a turn-based scene, it still does it accordingly to whatever track it is playing. So everything is very music driven. So if you like overall a rhythm game, but with a little twist to it, definitely check out Infinite Guitars. Miitopia. I love this game because originally you could only play it on the 3DS, but now with having it available for the Nintendo Switch, it just makes the experience fun, but takes it to the next level. Well, it still involves a lot of RPG elements to it, like tweaking overall your weapons, your armor, making sure that your characters, you can level up their stats, like their defense, attack, and so much more. It does it in such a simple way that it's not hard to understand. But also the thing that makes it unique is that you can link and bond and create relationships in this game. So seeing certain events that gets triggered, depending what characters you put together in one room, they can probably become best friends, or they can probably become enemies and despise themselves. You never know what's going to happen in Miitopia. Now, Tunic is a game that has a total different approach when explaining to the player how to play the game. They drop you in the world where you are unaware what it's even about. And it's up to you to discover what every item is for, how to operate in this world, and what's the story about. Now, in Tunic, the way you find out about the controls and the tutorial and how to play the game is collecting pages that are scattered throughout the world that will eventually turn into this instruction booklet that explains to you the controls, explains the items and what they're used for, and also gives you tips on how to progress in the story. It's very unique, but again, just like Infinite Guitars, I will leave it to your own discretion of what you think it comes down to when it comes to difficulty overall. Now, what better game to recommend to a beginner if it's not a Paper Mario game? Like, come on now, Paper Mario is the pinnacle when it comes to RPGs, while meshing your favorite Nintendo characters and into a world of RPG. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is by far one of my favorite Paper Mario games. The story in the game is super funny and easy to understand. Also, when it comes to the difficulty, I feel like it's a nice amount of difficulty for us that have played the game, but also for someone who is going to start. And when it comes to the combat is what makes Paper Mario shine, as it is basically a turn-based, and you have to be very strategic and think it fully through. Dragon Quest Builders 2. Now, if you love Minecraft, if you love Stardew Valley, if you love RPGs in general, but you also want that coziness, Dragon Quest Builders 2 got you covered. I really love the fact of how much it emphasizes the crafting world and how important it is to get through the game. Tutorial-wise, like I explained, it's really simple. I think it's one of those main reasons why I placed this game on this list, because they really make sure that you understand absolutely everything in this game. In combat, it's pretty simple. Basically, if you've played a Minecraft game or you've played any action RPG, it pretty much operates the same way. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, the reason why I placed Assassin's Creed into an RPG for beginners is because it has a lot of elements, such as leveling up, grinding, tweaking your weapons and your armor. It has a skill tree, which is super necessary to unlock special moves and special skills to use in combat, but also it just brings an entire world of just blending together the boss fights of RPG worlds while playing in an open world. It's so much fun. And out of any Assassin's Creed game, I highly have to recommend Odyssey, because when it comes to the story, they've done a great job in explaining what the story is about, but also it plays a big and major role in this game, because depending the choices you make, the responses you give, and the decisions you make, you branch out a total different story. You heard it right. This game has multiple endings, so nobody is going to play the same way. Now, Dinkum is accessible through Steam. That's how I got to play it. And it's a mesh between Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley with RPG elements into it. So imagine Animal Crossing as an RPG. That would be pretty dope. So in this game, they drop you on this island. You have to build your own town, but you gotta also learn how to survive, because at the end of the day, it is an island, and I don't think nobody's coming to pick us up. Just gotta be honest. So in this game, it is super important for you to gather resources, craft, and also you can do really epic things. They have licenses such as you being able to operate water vehicles and navigate through this island. You can go hunting, you can go mining, you can farm. The options are endless of what you can do in this game. They have a health bar as well as an energy bar, which is super important to keep track of throughout the day, because depending the actions you do or the task you are in charge or responsible for that day, it may drain up pretty quickly. So making sure that you feed your character, but also you get a good night's sleep is super important for this game. And the combat is pretty simple and straightforward as any action RPG. So next on my list is a Ni no Kuni. Now, I've mentioned this in a previous video that I talked about retro RPGs, but now we get to talk about it all over again because it's a perfect game for beginners. Starting from the tutorial, like one thing that level 5 shines is for really being thorough when it comes to their tutorials. They do an amazing job explaining the menu, the weapons, your monsters, how to navigate properly, but also just the overall how to play the game and not feel lost. When it comes to the combat, it's pretty simple and straightforward. If you played any level 5 game, then you pretty much know how it goes. It's not too difficult, but it also is not too easy. So it's just the right amount of difficulty for any person that is either a veteran or simply a beginner that is starting an RPG. And when it comes to the overall experience, a level 5 definitely makes sure that they deliver, because the story, the graphics, and overall the premise of the game is one that's truly going to captivate your heart, and it's going to make you want to play this game for hours. So definitely check out Ni no Kuni, the remastered version, if you're going to play it. So one of the things I experienced immediately when I was to Final Fantasy X is the tutorial. They do a really good job explaining everything, especially their skill tree. Like, their skill tree is mind-blowing. It is huge. Not only for your main character, but also for any characters that are going to form your party to play this game. I love it because it kind of reminded me of Assassin's Creed. So if you've played an Assassin's Creed, this skill tree looks very similar. But yeah, it's super easy to understand. Combat-wise, as a turn-based battle, it is pretty simple and pretty straightforward. And once again, they do a really good job at explaining certain events, certain actions that will trigger throughout the battles, and how to use them properly, and also how to learn how to read boss patterns, their weaknesses, their strengths, and be able to incorporate that to win a battle. So I feel like it does a really good job. Difficulty level, it doesn't feel as hard. I kind of been playing through it, and it feels like I'm just constantly, you know, not struggling at all. So my overall experience with Final Fantasy X has been pretty good when it comes to combat. Now, another game that I jumped into, not only as a rookie, but as a complete beginner, is Pokemon. And the game that I got to experience was Pokemon Legends Arceus. And I have to say, this game is really, really good. It's for the first time a Pokemon game that they take it into an open world. And this has been fascinating, my experience so far, where you get to roam through these lands and just catch Pokemons to your heart content. Of course, it has a story mode as any game. So when it comes to tutorials, I feel like when it comes to Pokemon games, they do a phenomenal job really explaining, especially for this one being an open world, how it operates and functions in order for you to progress through the story. Also, another thing that I noticed that when I was playing that kind of surprised me is, depending the gender that you select or the character that you select, things change slightly in the story, which was pretty amazing. I like it. And not only for characters that they present to you, but also their dialogue. So their dialogue in the story changes completely, which I thought was something pretty unique when it comes to a Pokemon game. So you might want to consider it when playing Pokemon Legends. But overall, when it comes to difficulty, combat, and tutorial, it does a phenomenal job explaining it. And once you're done, you pretty much know what to do. It's your usual, typical, let's open world, run, catch Pokemons, battle Pokemons, craft items, visit your village, talk to residents, and just have an overall good time. Following up is Monster Hunter Stories 2. Now, you know I had to bring a Capcom game, and so I had to bring Monster Hunter Stories because it is, after all, an RPG. Now, you know I've talked about Monster Hunter Stories 1, which was released originally for the 3DS. If you haven't checked it out, I'll leave a link in the video description for my full review when it comes to Monster Hunter Stories. And now getting to play and experience Monster Hunter Stories 2, it has not disappointed me one bit. Starting from the very beginning of the game, tutorials are non-stop. They'll make sure they explain every single thing, from side missions to the main quests to your prayer pot to how to use properly your monsters in battles, how to overall navigate when it comes to the combat wheel, the keenship, super skills, how to it's so much, guys. It's a lot. It is a lot. So for somebody who's never played Monster Hunter Stories, I will tell you, the tutorial will do a really good job explaining everything to you. Now, when it comes to the combat, it is slightly challenging, but not as hard. Once you know the animal's weaknesses, once you know how to operate correctly your keenship, your combat wheel, and know how to use it, it'll be a breeze. Starting from technical to speed to power, you get to choose what is your approach in the battles, what monsters to use, what armor or weapons to use. And it's all about leveling up, grinding, and making sure that you have a successful battle, because the more successful you are, the more experience points you'll gain, but also the more opportunities and possibilities you have of getting really cool items, that are left behind from each battle. Fuga is a tactical RPG that you are sure to love, as it meshes the world of Miitopia, but also I feel like it has Fallout elements to it. As any tactical RPG, this one has a very unique approach. It's a tank filled with children who it is your responsibility to make sure they survive and get through this period. As any Miitopia or inspired game, like along the lines, it runs by waves. So you're basically navigating through this map and entering battle after battle. You have to level up your tank, you have to upgrade your weapons, but you also got to make sure that you create relationships. You bond with these children in this tank. So every character you choose, you have to be careful with who you bond with and who you build relationships with, as it will trigger events, but also it will unlock unique abilities and skills that you can use later on in battles. I remember, for example, I linked up Hannah with another girl in the tank, and once they bonded and leveled up in their friendship, they unlocked this really cool skill that let me attack the enemy while still recovering HP, in return, which was phenomenal. But what makes this game unique is that, one, I noticed it's color coded. So each enemy will be color coded, and so is your canyons. So you get to use your canyons carefully with whatever color the tank is. If you do it, it'll have a delay attack on their part and it'll be successful on your end. So learning how the battle works, learning what they're weak to, learning how to upgrade your tank properly, but also learning how to take care of these children, because one of the most mortal but ultimate weapons that this tank has is called the Soul Canyon. The Soul Canyon will eliminate all of your enemies in one blow. But in order to use it, it would recommend sacrificing someone's life in this tank. So you have to be very careful. Do you want to sacrifice one of these children in order to use this Soul Canyon? Or do you want to take the harder route and try to defeat these enemies without having to sacrifice anyone at all? Super Mario RPG is the first Mario franchise game that draws elements from Square's RPGs such as Final Fantasy. It is a turn-based combat where you can team up to 3 characters in an action command battle. That's what I love about this game, as for an SNES game, it did a really good job of incorporating your favorite Nintendo characters into a world of RPG. And all the different options and accessibility that you have to really dope skills and abilities in the combat makes it shine as a true RPG. It's pretty simple and easy to navigate, and you will not get lost at all. Plus, the characters that it offers has such a unique personality, a great sense of humor, and you will quickly just feel this bond towards these characters and feel attached to them as you progress and learn not only about the main story, but about their background story as well. The items, the grinding, the leveling up, and the options you have to different suits to level up for Mario, as well as just weapons that you can use, items in the combat, learning how to read into their weaknesses but strength of each boss, but also experience this in a isometric 3D environment, which I feel like is just the perfect art direction they could have gone with. And it kind of reminds me in a way of Donkey Kong Country, but a Super Mario RPG. The whole premise of this game is gathering all the stars and being able to save this world from chaos, basically as any classic RPG. But I feel like you're gonna have an amazing time, and if you haven't played Super Mario RPG, I highly recommend you checking it out. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this list. I have so many games that I could have put into this list, but that's where the comment section comes in. So if you have some games that you would highly recommend for beginners, or just overall for anybody who wants to dive into the RPG world, feel free to comment below right now as I read each and every one of your messages. And if you want to check out some really cool RPG recommendations such as these, make sure to check my series, and I will keep it in the video description. I'm going to put a link right there so you can check it out right now. As always, you beautiful Watts, stay positive and game on.